This is Eyewitness News Up Close with Bill Ritter.
Immigrants crossing the border into the United States, once again a front and center issue. This after the governors of Texas and Florida, rather than trying to help solve the problem of immigration, decide instead to send the migrants to so-called sanctuary cities and states across the country. Some were even sent to Martha's Vineyard. Critics call the move inhumane and a political stunt. Supporters say they're sharing the burden, and they claim they are illustrating a border crisis that the Biden administration is ignoring. This morning, we talked to Adriano Espaillat, the first Dominican American elected to Congress, and once an undocumented immigrant himself who came here as a child. Plus, 3 months after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down New York's concealed carry law, where do we stand? We talked to the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, about that and also about the continued controversy over bail reform at a time when we are still fighting a surge in crime. And good morning, everyone. I'm Bill Ritter. Welcome to Up Close. We could spend this entire broadcast detailing all the ways this country is divided, terribly divided. One issue that truly shows the depth of this division is immigration. No question, this country has needed for so many years and administrations a humane, smart, and economically logical immigration policy. This country is defined by its immigrant history, and yet it is still mired in outdated and sometimes downright mean and inhumane procedures. It is not what America is supposedly about. So how do we get there? Our first guest this morning with some personal insight into this issue, Congressman Adriano Espaillat from New York, the first Dominican member of Congress and the first to have been an undocumented immigrant to become a congressional representative. Congressman, good to see you. Welcome to Up Close again.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me again.
Before we get to policy, let me just, go into your own life. In 1964, excuse me, you were 9 years old. I think I thought about you when all this was happening. As a 9-year-old, you came here in very different circumstances. You were here on a tourist visa, but then it lapsed and you eventually got papers. But what would the 9-year-old Adriano Espaillat think about what is happening right now with people forced into buses and bused down here and up here?
Tell you what, it was a far different experience. New York City was very hospitable to me and my family. They welcomed us. I didn't feel at all that kind of hostility that's there today. Quite the contrary. I remember a senior couple in our building, the McCormicks, who were Irish, and they embraced us and they helped us learn English. They gave us books in English so we can learn that. And the Puerto Rican community was here before us and opened our doors. They sold us the bodegas and they got us apartments, big apartments for our big families. And so it was a far different scenario then. And I think we should try to be hospitable, particularly to people that are seeking asylum, like the Venezuelans that are coming through the border.
Right, they're trying to leave dictators, and the people, the founders of this country way back when, had similar grievances, and they came here and they fought a revolution for that. Let me ask you this: why haven't we formulated and forged a new and bipartisan deal on immigration? Because it's been there for a long time and no one has really addressed it. We're talking about presidents, we're talking about Congress people and senators and the American people. We have just gone to our corners now and are fighting it. And to just kick people out doesn't make sense. The truth is their lives will be better here than down there. I don't think there's any question about that in talking about southern states in this country. But why can't we come together and do that?
Bill, I think it's been weaponized, politically, and it's used to drive a wedge right through the middle of politics, particularly during election season. Because if you see, for example, the Venezuelans that are coming through the border, they're looking for asylum. And both DeSantis and Abbott spend a good amount of their time criticizing the Maduro regime and their authoritarian ways. And yet these victims from that regime, they're turning their backs on them.
Yeah,
it's very weird. Besides, you and I know that there's a need for workers. I mean, you go to a restaurant and your order is delayed. A couple of months ago, I went to a restaurant. You had to get the order and wait for them to call you right to the counter and pick up your food because they need workers. Our economy needs a boost. We need workers, and these folks could help our economy and help our nation move forward after the pandemic. For me, I think it's a no-brainer. The asylum seekers should have their day and be heard. And if they make their case where they're coming to the United States because they're fleeing the Maduro regime, we should allow them in. But this issue is weaponized on a daily basis to try to get votes. And both DeSantis and Abbott are doing just that.
I want to get into the weeds a little bit about what life is like here, but I want to offer one thing. There was, back in the civil rights movement in the early 60s, Southern governors forcing blacks, conniving them, to hundreds of them, to get on buses and come to New York and Massachusetts, once in front of the Kennedy compound in Massachusetts, and get out of the South. Sort of the reverse freedom fighters of civil rights.
Yes, this strategy is not new. They're being misled. They're being told that they're going someplace where they don't have perhaps even a family member or a friend, somewhere like Martha's Vineyards. The monies that they're using is questionable. It may be illegal what they're doing, using money that was perhaps allotted for COVID-19 response to transport, very expensive transportation for the immigrants, just to make a political point. Again, weaponizing this issue to try to get elected. And so this is now what immigration reform should be. It should be a sensitive and robust conversation about how we move our country forward, how we allow, what are the rules, the parameters, right, allowing folks in, and how do they help our economy. And so this is a discussion that must be had, but just misleading them and causing hardship. I went to the Port Authority, Bill, to welcome some of these folks. The stories that they told me of what they've been through. You have to walk through the El Darién, which is the Panamanian jungle. Some of them with little kids, 1 and 3 year olds. So this is folks that have gone through a tremendous and a horrible experience. And when they come here, they're misled and used by someone that wants to advance their political purposes.
Congressman, let me talk about what's happening here. We are a sanctuary city. We are taking this in. Everyone, including yourself and the mayor and the governor, are embracing what's happening. Mayor Adams says that there could be as many as 50 to 75,000 asylum seekers, migrants, coming here eventually. So far, about 13, almost 14,000. Many of them in shelters, but now many of them not, because there's no more room. In Orchard Beach, near a district you represent in the Bronx, there are people who are set up now in what's called a tent city. That is sort of a loaded term, but that's it right there. We're seeing it on our screen. And hundreds of people are going to be set up there. What kind of life is that, especially as we get colder in the winter?
We have to transition them, of course. And this is a first stop. I'm fighting in Congress to get the city the dollars. First reimbursement for about $5 million and then $50 million for the rest of the year. And next year, that program, not just for New York City, but for the whole countries, other municipalities that may face the same kind of influx of immigrants. I want to see $500 million in that pot of money to help out.
What do you think about the mayor putting up all those tents for people living together in that tent situation and environment?
Look, it's not the best scenario, obviously. Bill, it's not the best scenario. There are other places, perhaps we can look at the armories that we have in the city of New York that have big spaces as a transition space. Those places perhaps could be adequate for now, but not a permanent setting for families. So we have to find our way forward. We have to find affordable houses. Some of these families may stay here. Some of them may go somewhere else where they have other family members or friends, or where they find jobs and opportunities. So we'll have to transition. For now, it's fine, but it's not the best place for a family to be at.
Yes, no question. And if Mayor Adams is correct, there could be 6 times the number of people that are already here coming in. And that will be a crisis situation, a humanitarian crisis.
Well, the mayor is doing the best he can, and I'm trying to help him in Washington to find the resources so that we can respond in a humanitarian way, in the way New Yorkers respond. I mean, what I saw down at the Port Authority, and by the way, what I saw from the folks welcoming them in Martha's Vineyards was nothing but love and acceptance. And that's really the heart of our country.
There's no question.
And I think we're getting a different reaction than what Abbott and DeSantis may expect people to react in places like New York City.
Well,
we're saying, we recognize what they've been through, and we want to give them a helping hand.
And people want to react by going high, and that's what I think the officials are doing here. We have a minute left, Congressman. I do want to talk to you about what's happening in Puerto Rico, your home island of the Dominican Republic, with the storms that are out there and a hurricane. How badly are we how badly is the damage? We see it. President Biden has said he's going to pay for 100% of the cleanup the first month. What was your reaction when you heard that this week?
Good. That's what we asked. We asked for 100% reimbursement for Puerto Rico. They don't have the budget means to answer to that. In fact, they couldn't access the dollars during the previous administration to make the repairs they needed to make and the rehabs they needed to make after Hurricane Maria, which is 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
So bad shape, and the Dominican Republic, of course, really hit hard as well. We're working with USAID and the Red Cross and the people from New Yorkers in general that are sending stuff down there right now as we speak to help people that are in dire need.
Congressman Adriano Espaillat, I appreciate your making the case about immigration and keeping us up to date on what's happening with the hurricanes down there. I appreciate it. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.